Welcome to Tao Living, the Art of Living podcast with your host, Luke Corletto, where you will be supported to remember that you are the driver and not the vehicle, so that you can walk your life in trust. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tao Living podcast and the Art of Living. And today I'm really stoked to have this amazing man, friend, teacher, to have him unpack his wisdom today. We were just connecting before we went live. And so I'm not going to do a spoiler alert and ruin some of the content. I'll let that unpack. I first met Ricardo. Geez, man, how long? It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we were at some kind of event. It was during one of the breaks, and he just had this wild, crazy energy that attracted me. I'll imagine why. So we sparked a conversation, and then we ran into each other at another event. And then I got to meet this man, meaning really meet him, right? So I've been blessed then to learn from his wisdom and expertise, and then deepen our friendship, and that I'm grateful for. And serendipitously, just recently, we were both in Spain at the same time. He was, which I'll let him tell the story, in a different part of Spain doing something really cool. And I was also in a different part of Spain doing something pretty cool. So first, brother, thank you for taking your time out to share with me and for those who are engaging in listening to the Art of Living, the Tao Living podcast.
Oh yeah, you bet. I'm so glad. I'm stoked to be here, man. Love it.
So what I'd like to do is, I was just sharing with Ricardo that, and for those listening, if you haven't heard the recent podcast called Those People, check that out. It's a short little version, just me. I didn't have a guest. It might be 10, 12 minutes long max. And I would like to use that as a foundation for this, the beginning of this unpacking of wherever we're going to go in this episode. Yeah. And that being said, so I first met this guy and I hear Ricardo Gomez, yet he's got a Parisian accent. And so my head's going, something's not matching here. What's going on? So I find out this guy, he's born and raised and he grew up in Paris. And then he leaves Paris to come to the States without having a mastery of the language. He's a high-end hairstylist in Paris and then also in the States, in Washington, D.C. Then he gets involved and runs a company that becomes an 8-figure success Fortune 500 business. Then he sells that, becomes a high-end coach. Then he becomes an NLP master, neuro-linguistic languaging. And now he serves entrepreneurs all over the world. He's helping French business owners right now, and he's got a new program helping with those over 50 to re-engage in life at high levels. And I'm like, so I was joking with him going in, who do you think you are to become one of those people? Who do you think you are, right? So I'd love to unpack that, brother, wherever you want to start. Like, what was the transition from, because I know your backstory, you weren't one of those people, right? Using that reference of the previous podcast, to give you that inner strength to go, I'm after this. I see a vision and a dream and I'm going for it.
Yeah. It took me years to unpack that, really unpack that, to understand why do we do what we do, right? What is the reason? What is the compelling reason? And when I found out, it's basically there's one or two reasons you do things. It's either to move towards something or to move away from something, or a combo of both, right? And for me, it was kind of a combo of both, right? I felt like in Paris, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, I felt I was contained. Right. And I was looking for that adventure. I was looking for that discovery. So I set up a goal when I was 18 years old. I told myself, you know what? 1992, 4 years from now, I'm going to America. And that was the whole thing. And the challenge with that was I had a dream, but nobody else had that dream. And nobody could understand that dream. So you have all those people, exactly. Why are you going to do that? You don't know anybody, you don't have any money, you don't speak the language, so you have that language coming from the loved one, right? They want the best for you, but you have the language, but I was so motivated, right? Because I needed to get away from it, where I was, and I needed to discover that thing. And that's how it happened. And so 4 years later, May 1st, 1992, I was sitting on the airplane flying to San Diego, California. I didn't know anybody, I didn't speak the language, and I have, a few $100 in my pocket. That's how it started. As simple as that.
So, well, yeah, as simple as that, because you've unpacked it, but I'd like to unpack that a little bit more. So first of all, for those listening, right? So here's one of the most beautiful cities in the world that people around the world have a dream to get to. Yet you grew up in it and are going, I got to get out of here. So I put a pin in that because one, a lot of times people judge the place of where they're at as it's the place, right? Versus where I'm at, right? It might not be the location. It might just be me. Like I'm in a place. Maybe it is the environment, but sometimes it's just me where I'm at, not the actual place, right? So again, I'm bringing that up of here's people who dream to go visit the city and you were born and raised there and going, this thing's containing me. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other part of going, okay. And then everybody around me is going, yeah, you've got this dream, kid, but come on, man, don't pick a smaller dream, right? You don't have the money. You can't speak the language. Who do you think you are? You're only going to get hurt.
Yeah, totally.
But why did you choose not to listen to that? Why didn't you listen to the advice from everybody around you instead of going, no, I'm going?
Again, looking back, I think it's when you had that must that you have to do it. It's just like it's hard to define. It's like you have that must that it's either die or you die, right? And when you have that conviction, and to impact the story, that trip was a 1-year trip where I traveled around the country, right, for 1 year. It was fantastic. Met new people, new experiences, etc. But then after 1 year, I had to come back because I had an open ticket. At the time, you could buy open ticket, right, from this day to day. So I had to come back. So I came back to Paris, and I remember coming back, and my brother, who was 18 months older than me, said to me, "But now what? You did that, but you have even less money, and you're back to where you were." And I remember looking at him, and now, so by now I'm 23 years old. I look at him and I say, "You don't understand what happened here. I'm gone." And I remember that I was gone, that I could never unlearn what I learned. It was impossible. So 13 months later, I was back in the plane, back to the US, but this time for good. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So that piece too, let's unpack that, which is the, once the mind's expanded, right, it can't go back. So that's the magic sauce. What Ricardo just shared is, so I had a concept decades ago that I ran to help me shift, which was choosing to see everybody and everything that I encounter as God testing me to be true to myself, right? So here's this, no, you can't, no, you can't, no, you can't. Do I listen to the outside voice or do I listen to the inner voice, that drive, right? Even when everything else is going, no, this is going, it's imperative. You must do this. The heart voice, right? The inner voice, not the small voice. Yeah. And following that, right? And in doing so, the experiences that we then encounter fundamentally change, right? Because we have a new perspective, a new reality, yeah, which then once expanded cannot shrink back. Awesome. So then you jump ship and now you're back into the States, committing to a whole new flow of life in a new country, beginning a brand new journey.
Yep. And so you want me to unpack what happened then?
However you want to take it, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, look, I always remember the story of the bumblebee, right? The bumblebee is one of the biggest bee body-wise, who has the little wings, who are tiny compared to the body, right? And I remember that metaphor because they tried to recreate that in a tunnel, with some of the physics and stuff like that. And the question was like, how the heck the bumblebee flies with the size, how big it is compared to the wingspan, which is tiny. And so they did all that research and did all that experiment. And then at the end, they concluded, well, it can fly, right? But the metaphor is, we say it can fly, but the bumblebee doesn't know it, right? And so looking back at some of the path that I see people taking, it's if you don't get caught up in those BS stories, if you don't get caught up in those stories, limitation or who you are, etc., once you let go of all that stuff, it's free to go, right? If you ask a kid, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, what do you want for Christmas? He's going to give you a list like this, a big list. I want this, I want that, I want a pool, I want a house with this, I want I want 2 pools, I want this. Now you ask that same person 20 years later, what do you want for Christmas? I want a CD and a book. What happened between all those crazy dreams, unlimited, right? And that limiting yourself, well, I don't want to be disappointed, well, you have to be real, like all those stories, be the bumblebee, put yourself and be the bumblebee.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Our science says you can't fly, so it sits down and starts crawling. Versus, what do you mean, like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's the concept, which is address the stories, right? Address the limiting beliefs, and then choose to upgrade them or not. I mean, that's the work we all get to do. So the question is, how do we address those limiting beliefs? One, how do we even know we have them, right? You and I were talking before we went live is the thing that just keeps hitting me at different levels. But when I first started doing my work was the realization that I thought I was choosing my life, like from the fullness of consciousness. And then as I began doing my work, I realized, holy smokes, I'm not. I'm making choices, but they're not from current time. I'm being run by programming that's been in my subconscious or unconscious for a long time. And that was it was a mixed blessing. The awakening was great. And the realization that, oh my God, I'm not really choosing what I want. I'm choosing from stories that were already downloaded from people, places, and things and environment.
Oh yeah, all the time. That happens all the time, over and over.
Yeah. So how, for the listening audience, how do they get access to that stuff so they can start to recognize, woo, I am running from old programming. How do I pop the programming to even have the ability to go, great, I get to upgrade that story?
Well, the first step, in my opinion, it's, get ready to be aware, get aware. Now, the first thing is you have to understand, you have to start by keeping one promise to yourself, right? Whatever promise you make to yourself, stick to it, right? Because people have all those, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be different, I'm going to approach things differently, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you break that one promise to yourself, then you're going to keep doing that pattern, right? So start dreaming. Seriously, start dreaming. My big concept always being like, it doesn't matter what you learn. What matters is what you believe about what you learn, right? So I always think about, you have to have that mindset, right? First of all, the first thing you have to have that, what I call invincible mindset, right? That's the first step. Why? Because that's going to take you from stuck to unstoppable, right? Yeah, but easy for you because me. Yeah, we all have stories. We all have excuses. You know what? That story, that excuse took you as far as it could. Next. Right? But it's always about the mindset. Once you have that invisible mindset, then you start to create the vision. What are you dreaming about? What is it that you want? Why do you want it? Be like, go for it. Because if you don't have that inspired vision, for most people, I always say you have to go from unclear to compelling. You cannot go through life. And you and I, we talked about a few years ago, where diving, if you're diving and it's at night and you put the light, you only see what you see in front of you. Right? I remember when you shared some metaphor with me about that, but you don't see everything that is there, and suddenly you go over here and there's a freaking monster, right? Those are the stories that are holding you, who do you believe you are, your identity, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to no, the mindset first, then create that inspiring vision. From there, let's talk about strategies, right? Let's go from that place of being unreliable to be predictable. As simple as that. 6 weeks ago, I decided I'm going to start swimming. I have a pool here, they open it and I start swimming. And I did 4 laps, 25 meters, and I almost died. And I thought I was in shape. And, and then I'm like, okay, my mindset is there, right? What is my vision? I really want to be able to swim a mile, without stopping and feeling great. How do I get there? Now, let me talk about strategy. And the strategy was let's learn. I started learning how to swim, the body, this and that. 2 days ago, I swam 1 mile. And I was like, wow, now I want to keep going, right? But it always start with that. Make that promise to yourself. Don't break it, no matter what. Just don't.
Ooh, that's beautiful. So that last piece, right? So I have in this case, right? You had a vision to swim a mile. You get in, you do 3 or 4 laps, you barely make it. You get to the end of the pool, holding on, sucking air, and then, right? But this is what tends to take us out, right? Which is, it's too hard. I didn't do 4 laps. A mile is going to be 20, right?
64.
Holy smokes.
64 laps.
64 laps, right? I just did 4. There's no way I'm going to get to 64. And now the stories pop, right? That's the cool part, is the stories pop. It's too far, it's too much, it's too long, it's too hard. Hold on, I just did 4 today. I didn't do 4 the last 2 years.
Yeah.
What's going to happen 2 weeks from now? I can do 8, right? And then I'm doing 16. Hey, I'm moving up the ladder. Versus we take ourselves out too quick, right? So what's the magic sauce? It's easy to say, have something and stick to it. You know, that's easy to tell people. What's the magic sauce to sustain that stick-to-itiveness?
The magic sauce is to challenge your belief, right? Is to challenge your belief, right? Because people fight so hard for the limitation. It's unbelievable. No, let me tell you why I can't do that. And they really fight into, and for me, it's like, well, first of all, I do a lot of work with the unconscious level, right? Where we unpack the unconscious level, we reframe, all that, et cetera, right? But for somebody who doesn't have access to that yet, you have to challenge it. And the way you challenge yourself is very simple. What if? You know, and the what if goes like, what would happen if you do that? You know, what would happen if you keep pushing through? What would happen if you create something like that? And I keep going with the what would happen, but also then I go reverse and I say, what will not happen if I don't follow through? What will not, et cetera, et cetera. So you start challenging your own belief because, like I said, people are like, no, let me tell you why I can't do that, right? And I always say, do you know anybody who's done it? Have you ever done it in your life? Something, you know, etc. So you really have to, so you're aware, sure, but then challenge yourself into that. All of this is part of the mindset part, creating the invisible mindset. That's how you go from stuck to unstoppable. You gotta start. That's 101.
Nice. Yeah. Right. Isn't it amazing how much we argue for our limitations? Like literally argue for the limitations and then wondering why we're conflicted with, I have this desire, but I spend 90% of the time fighting for why I can't make it happen. Yeah.
And if I want to add something, is like, look, I'm not saying you didn't have a hardship. I'm not saying you didn't have it difficult. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you deserve better. I'm just saying, like, this is what happened. I get it. Right? Why don't we look away from it and say, okay, what can I learn from that? How can I move forward? How can I get something out of it? Right? People tendency to give up on themselves. And if you're parents, I'm always going to tell you the same thing. Would you give up on your kids the way you give up on yourself? And I always hear, no. I say, well, then do the same thing for yourself. Stop the shame, stop the guilt, stop all that stuff that's holding you back. You never give up for your kids, ever.
Yeah. So the door just opened. I'm going to throw it out there for you. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If it does, step in, which is right. So I started off the beginning sharing, like, who do you think you are? You, Ricardo, leaving Paris, coming to the States, the high-end hairstylist, running an 8-figure business, becoming a master coach. And, oh, well, he's one of those people, right? He was born with a silver spoon. It's easy for him. Like when I'm in a rough space and I'm judging those people. So people on the podcast listen, well, yeah, the guy's already got his shit together. Therefore that you don't understand. You don't know my life. Right. So what was the deal standing on the balcony?
Yeah.
Just to give somebody, just to give the listening audience a context, like, oh yeah. Right.
Yeah. So when I was 18 years old, I came back from home, from work or for something, because I was apprentice from 15 to 18 years old as a stylist in Paris. And I came back home, and my parents on the first floor in one of those buildings was 6th floor, and I live on the 6th floor, like a maiden room. It's like, tiny room, 200 square feet. And so I go to my parents' house, and everybody's crying. Everybody's crying over there, and my parents are crying, my brothers are crying, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then just found out that my uncle died. And my mother was family of 9, and she's the oldest. So for her, it was like another kid, because, she was 15 years older than him, and it just passed, and it was unfortunate. But she was so angry that she come towards me and just threw in my face and said to me, why didn't you die instead of him? And that just fucking crushed me. And so I went up the stairs, on the where I was, and I already have a lot of challenge with my mom and whatnot, etc. She's very, tough woman, etc. Bless her heart, love her, she's still alive. But at that moment, I went to my room and opened the balcony, and here it is. I payback time, and the payback time was, oh yeah, I'm gonna jump here. You're gonna find me on the ground, and it's gonna be on you. Unbelievable. And then I remember that at that moment, I see the Eiffel Tower. I had the chance to see the top of the Eiffel Tower from that part of the stuff. And I look at the Eiffel Tower with the lights on, doing that thing. And then I thought, wow, somebody built that. Somebody had a freaking dream, and somebody built that. I need a dream. I don't have a dream. And that night I went back to bed, and that's how I decided to come to America 4 years later. Mm. So early on, when I say, well, sometimes the question of life and death, it was a must. I had to make that decision because something had tremendous happened to me, and it was game over. So yeah, it happened that way.
Yeah. So for those listening going, yeah, but you don't know, that's why I asked him to share that story. From having the person that brought you in the world say, why didn't you die? That's a heavy load to, instead of jumping off the balcony and ending it, taking that moment and saying, I need a dream, all right? I need a purpose, right? It's something, a driving force.
Yeah.
And obviously he discovered that and acted on it. That's the biggie. Don't just discover it. We've got to take action. Yeah. So
it's funny because it's linked to the vision, right? Now I have a compelling vision, right? Now I'm going, or inspiring vision. Now I'm going to clear to compelling. Now what's my strategy? How do I do it? Right? It's always linked one way or the other. Yeah.
And as you well know, and I'm doing this for the audience, which is, this is a place that people tend to get hung up with, but I don't know how, right? So we use the dreaded hows to take us out versus let the why drive, right? Yeah. Let the why drive to get action. The how will start to reveal itself, because I found that I've done it, and a lot of people that I work with is, until we know how, we're not going to take the first step.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's just a creative way to keep taking self out.
Always.
Right.
Look, you don't see the path. You just know it's the other side of the tunnel. The tunnel is dark. There's no light. You know there's something at the end for you, right? But there's no light. Now, the magic is when you step into that tunnel, the first light up. And as you continue, the second light up. And that's your why, right? The how is going to become, is going to happen. Just stick to that freaking promise you made to yourself.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Joseph Campbell's right. The cave you fear to enter is the place that holds the source of the healing, right? That's not the true quote, but that's the concept.
Yeah.
And it's that unknown that we fear versus what's driving me.
Yeah. So
right?
What could it be? What if? Because human being, we don't like changes.
Period. Yeah.
Like to be comfortable right here, right? And unless you find the leverage, and the leverage is something I share with my clients, is like, look, if you're parents and you're parents and you're on top of the building, 100 feet, 200 feet in the air, and there's a building on the other side, and there's a 4x4 or 8x whatever plywood over there like this, solid, that you can walk through between this building and the other building, and there's 30 feet to go. And there's a whole $20 bill on the other side for you. and that building on the other side is on fire, would you go to get that $20? Heck no, no freaking way. But what if instead of $20 is your kid on the other side? Same scenario, but it's your kid. What changed?
Nice.
Leverage.
Nice. Yep.
What changes the leverage?
But I'm afraid of heights, and I can't, and I can't, and I can't. All that stuff goes away when there's leverage. I quit thinking about me. My kid's over there and the building's on fire. I don't even realize I'm at 30 floors above the ground, walking on a paper clip to get over there. It's no longer an issue, right? It's no longer an issue. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So beautiful piece. Beautiful piece. Ricardo did this amazing presentation in January at my event called Life by Design. And there was just one, he delivered an hour's worth of just amazing content. And there's just one piece for me that was just like, especially because he used it in a topic that was like right in my face. And it was a simple reframe, which the pain and pleasure aspect, right? So having in my past life was an athlete who used to train 2 hours a day. And then I quit and became lazy and quit moving. And then I re-engaged, hired a personal trainer to give me the leverage because I didn't want to do that to myself anymore. Yet I'm still having I don't want to go to the gym and work out. I don't want to work that hard, blah, blah, blah. Right. And that beautiful reframe, would you share that?
Sure. Look, people, we do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure, right? This is something we probably learned from 20, 25, 30 years ago, right? That's the thing, right? At the end of the day, every moment it's a freaking choice, right? Well, you motivate. No, I want to eat chocolate all day long at pizza. I don't want to be moving. I want to be watching Netflix all day long, right? I want to do that. Now, sometimes I do. Yes. And then I'm like, can't do it. Example, I just spent 3 weeks in Spain and, had fun, but I came back, I gained 6 pounds. And I couldn't work out because it was too hot and I was doing a lot of traveling with the kids and then doing other stuff. When I came back, I had to make a decision because this is not me, getting my little tummy going on right there, And so the pain for me was, now what? I'm slower. I'm not as fit. I don't look as good. I start focusing on the pain and I said, dude, is that really me or should I focus on what if, et cetera, et cetera? I did 4 days of cleansing and then another 4 days of half cleansing and I'm back. It took me 8 days instead of 3 months, right? But if we really focus the pain and pleasure, you really have to leverage yourself, change where you focus on and make sure you get like the Viking, you burn the bridge, you burn the freaking boats, and then you have no choice. It's a must, you make it happen. Just don't believe when you hear somebody say things like that, well, you motivated. It's not everybody, every single day is a battle. Every minute of the day is a battle of a choice. Every day,
So thank you. And I want to just clarify the piece for me, for the listening audience, which was what he just articulated in that share was the essence of switching the pain and pleasure part, right? That was for me, or at least is what I took out of it, right? So it's like, okay, the pain in my mind then was going to work out. It's a pain in the butt. It's too hard, blah, blah, blah. The pleasure was sitting down, having the pizza, watching Netflix, right? And changing the association to have it's painful to sit down and eat the pizza and watch Netflix, right? To associate pain with that because great, I'm getting slower and fatter, brain fog and everything else, versus the pleasure is working out, healthier, faster, quicker in thinking, stronger willpower, and simply reassociate those pain and pleasure marks to what we've done before.
Yeah.
Creates a different dance to, again, remove the external motivation and now fire up the internal inspiration.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. And yeah, one of the great ways to do that exercise is to think about what are the benefits of this, what are the drawbacks of that. And that way you do it yourself. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, I just wanted to throw that into the field right now for the listening audience. Yeah, thank you for that. So one of the things that you've worked with me, the power of the combination of the NLP framework, the timeline therapy, right? Those are tools in order to get access to these limiting beliefs, limiting thinking, to bring them to the surface and move forward, right?
Yeah.
I'm deleting a bunch of stuff. We're going to be here for 3 hours because all these questions are popping. Like, what about this? What about that? Taking your three pieces, right? The mindset, the vision,
And the strategy.
How would you support somebody to incorporate those three core elements for you?
Well, first we have to look at the stories, right? First we have to look at the stories that are holding people back, right? People have been shackled, from life experience, right? And remember, when you're born, you're limitless, right? When you're born, remember the job as a parent is to avoid that the kids hurt themselves the first 5 years of their life, right? Because the kids will do anything and everything, right? Well, I'm gonna jump in and touch the hot stove, etc., because we're limitless, right? And then through life, you have experience and things that happen. So we have to unpack all that stuff, right? The problem with all that stuff that limiting people is you show up as a certain person, right? You have that identity, right? You tell people, hey, have you thought about that? Oh yeah, but that's not me. When did you decide that? Right? When did you decide that? Because it wasn't unconscious. Is all that stuff is like, if you look at you buy a house and there's a beautiful backyard, right? It's gorgeous. If you don't take it back at the backyard, you come back 5 years later, the grass is here. There's an old fridge over there. There's some old automotive cars on the left. There's some tires. There's some bunch of stuff over there. And you don't even know what was there before, right? And that's a challenge with most people. So you start really, people talk about awareness, etc., but it's really start about who are you showing up as, right? Whatever you are in your life right now, whoever you are, is the sum of your belief, your attitude, your actions, your values. All that stuff took you to right here, right? And if you are stuck to go to the next level, whatever it is for you, right? Fulfillment, feeling the hero, success, etc., we're gonna have to reframe all that stuff. There's no other way around, because you can't go any further. You can't run a 4-minute mile if right now you're doing 6 minutes and you're not training and you don't have a proper diet, etc., right? It's the same thing, right? So that's how you start, is to who you're showing as right now, what's holding you back, and let's reframe all that stuff. So now you can show up as the person who can get this done.
Oh, that's a beautiful piece right there, which is the identity, right? No, but that's who I am, right? That's who I am. That's just who I am.
That's I have an accent. English is not my first language. English is my third language. My parents didn't go to school, so I don't know. I mean, it's normal. Should be lucky. Yeah, that's what we do all day long. And today, more and more, when you see people spending so much time, unfortunately, getting information for upside of themselves, either from me or whatever, all of this is like, what do you think you are? Lucky you. Why don't we focus on that thing here and keep you stuck over here? Again, that's a whole new conversation, but that whatever's coming over here is as important as whatever's coming over here, for sure.
So one of the pieces that Ricardo just unpacked around the identity is connected to your beliefs and background and culture, right? And all the stuff that's been loaded into your system since you showed up on the earth. I was just sharing with Ricardo before we went live. I'm really stoked because I'd say within the next 2 weeks of this recording, we will launch the brand new courses that were shot 2 months ago, right? So Conscious Languaging 101 and Conscious Languaging 201. 101 is the fundamentals and 201 is the awakening process, where we really dive into like, what is actuality, right? What is reality? What is perceptions, and how do we change them, and how are they affecting us? Because this concept that most people, I did, is my reality, meaning I believe what I perceive the world to be. That's what everybody else is seeing as well, right? Which then affects my communication because, well, you should understand what I mean because we're looking at the same thing. No, we're not. I'm looking at it, whatever I'm looking at, I see because it's who I am. I don't see the world the way it is. I see the world the way I am,
Yep.
as do you and Ricardo and each person that's listening, right? Um, and so, as he was just describing, that's the work is to identify how we're showing up, right? My vernacular is who you be. Who you're being is not who you are. That's just what you're currently showing up as.
Yep.
And if it's all yummy, great, keep doing it. If there's parts that aren't as expressing the essence of who you are, that's a cool place to look at and have the courage and the willingness to recognize that's not who you are. It's just how you're showing up.
Yeah. And there's
And
a
we,
decision to add to that. There's a decision of the being, and I know you go so much in depth. I love into that. But yeah, there's a decision at one point about the being that are limiting people right now. Totally. People always focus on, the concept of do, have, be. Once you do that, you can have that, so you can become that. I was like, no, you're gonna become first. Become first, and then the do and have is gonna be so much easier. If I'm supposed to run a 5K and I truly believe there's no way I'm gonna finish it, I'm not gonna start it. Done. That's not who I am, right? But if I believe I can do it, I'm gonna start training. I'm going to do some research, and I'm going to have the result because of that, because I'm going to see myself. You hear some of those top guys talking about how they see the result at the end for the last 15 years, and then the Olympic champion. I had that dream when I was 8 years old, and then, 8, 9, 10, 12 years later, they are there. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Very talk about what's coming next, coming from you.
So your current flow with your clients, I know you've got a bunch of different projects going on. Serving yeah. So how can people get a hold of you? What is it you're bringing forth that's serving you from your heart at the most right now? Because I know you serve a bunch of different.
Yeah. I have a French market specific in business, right, for coaches, entrepreneurs, stuff like that. And then I have the US market that I'm just creating something totally new called Beyond 50. And it's really into the big three, right? Business, health, and relationship, right? I found out that a lot of people, men or women after 50, they're wondering what's next. Right? Either they feel stuck or something happening. My job is to open a new opportunity for a new journey. And you can call that, bliss, happiness, whatever, but a place where I want people to be able to wake up in the morning and be freaking excited about what's coming. Right? Not just because, I gotta do that. No. Just like really like, man, let's go. Right? There's no limitation of energy-wise because of a number on your body. I'm 53 years old. I'm not stopping anytime soon. I have no desire. And I get, 4 teenagers and let's go. And so to create that journey for them by creating a compelling future and things like that, yes. So I'm creating a Facebook group where I'm going to be sharing all that stuff, a free Facebook group where people can jump in and, we're going to go back and forth and help people to get there for sure.
Awesome.
Yep.
So I can't join because it's just for people over 50, right?
Well, you're 49. That's okay. You can go. No, people can also remember my mentality also is I want people in the 40s looking at us and say, what are they doing now so I can be there?
Yeah.
Right? That's the idea.
First of all, thank you for doing that. And there's times in my own, right? Because there's days where I still feel like I'm 25 internally. And then I walk by the mirror and I'm going, oh God, who just broke into my house? Right? Who's that guy with the gray hair who just walked by the mirror? It's like, whoa. And I remember growing up as a kid, and when somebody was, because I'm pushing 60, when somebody was 60, they were old, right? They were like grandpa, like the classic on a cane 60, right? And I'm like knocking at 60 and I skydiving, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
That's an old story, right?
That's an old story.
Yeah, yeah. So congrats for taking this group and showing them, hey, you just started, right? You
Just
just have
starting.
enough maturity to get rolling. Now let's set you free into a whole nother level in your relationships and your success and your vocation, right? And of course in your well-being, because without that, you're not going to be able to fulfill on any of the other ones.
But think about it, from 0 to 20 years old, nothing really happening. You're learning life. From 20 to 50, you spend 30 years. From 30 to 80, we still have 30 years. And then the extra 10, 15, 20 years for some of us. So we're in the middle. But people say like, oh, the golden age and this and that. There's so much more to do. There's so much more to live for. There's so much excitement. There's so more passion. There's so more, it's, but we got to remove those things.
And if you're listening to this and you are in this age frame or close to it, or definitely in it, take this opportunity and jump on with this man. And I say that from the place that one of the things that moved me most to make shifts and reinvent my life was being a healing practitioner for decades, watching the classic American dream of work your ass off, right? So what's the average retirement age now? 65, 67 now, I think. So we're supposed to work for 50 some odd years to save the money to then start enjoying our life. Like that's the concept, right? Be a worker bee. And the average person dies in their 70s. So if we follow that model, it's work for 50, 60 years, save as much as you can to enjoy life for 10 years. Right. And as a healing practitioner, I watched people who followed that model, and I was on track to follow that model, who, when they got there, either they were so broken, they had to use all their savings to try to recover their health, or they were so literally broken that they couldn't do the things they wanted to do, the travel, because their body was not in a place to be able to achieve that. Right. I'm like, thanks for showing me that that doesn't work. Yeah. Right. So I bailed on all of that and went, I'm going to start doing that now.
Yeah.
Right. And so we started knocking out the big stuff, right? Going to Antarctica and doing a hike in Africa. I'm like, why not? Right. Why not? What if I did it now? Like, oh, you're not allowed to. That's not the rules. Right. It's like, whoa, whose rules? Their rules.
It's their rules.
Right. So what if you check into your rules, right, and rewrite your rules? Well, that's what Ricardo's going to help you do in those three major areas of your life. So definitely I'll have the link to that group in the show notes, right? So for those who are watching this on YouTube or listening to it on the audio version, you can look in the show notes and see how you can reach out to this man. And at the same time, if you'd really like including that, support, deep level support, in October 12 to 15 on my property, we're doing a 4-day deep dive of how to access these limiting beliefs, how to transcend them. And as his famous line is, how do you unshackle yourself, right? Because until you do that, nothing's going to change. You're just going to keep looping into the same scenarios. So basically, is how do you set yourself free to become one of those people, in body, mind, and spirit, right? And it opens up a brand new reality, right? That's not fluff. This is like truth at the highest levels. Yeah. We'd love to have you come play. Yeah. And those two courses that I just talked about, Conscious Languaging 101, the fundamentals, and Conscious Languaging 201, the awakening process. They'll be launched in the next 2 weeks. And those are online, so you can watch and learn from them. So those are more resources. Reach out to this man, check into the October event, because I'm going to do my best to push his buttons and get him to commit to come do a presentation at that event as well.
Absolutely. And I just want to finish with I had the opportunity 3 or 4 times to work with you, where you show me some amazing stuff, from breath work to deep dive into the unconscious mind, stuff like that. I'm still high from those, because it's opening those windows and that you can never close. And it's unbelievable, super powerful, love it. Very grateful for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, Senor, merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Yeah, thank you for taking your time. And the piece I didn't share was when he was in Spain. Why were you in Spain? What was the major episode? Besides seeing family and eating all the good food, Running with the bulls. So how
Running with the bulls.
many 50 some odd year old people do you know get on a plane and go to Madrid to run with the bulls?
In Pamplona, yeah. It's been 13 years I've been doing that. I love it. I just love it.
You're not supposed to do that. Oh, you're not supposed to do that.
You're not supposed to do that, You're not supposed to. Yeah.
So congrats on fulfilling one of your continued dreams. I know you've been doing that for over a decade. Yeah. And thank you for all you do and bring to the world. Thank you for what you bring to my life. I appreciate you taking time to be on the show today. So, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to That Living Podcast, and share this episode with your loved ones so they too can learn how to set themselves free, unshackle themselves, and create a new reality. Until next time, abundant blessings. Peace. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
To connect further and dive deeper, you can always reach me at my website, loucorletto.com, LOUCORLETO, or in the social channels, Facebook, loucorletto.official, Instagram, Lou_Corletto, Twitter, Lou_Corletto, and LinkedIn. Until next time, remember who you be. Abundant blessings.